Maria Elena Alonso-Sierra is an award-winning bestselling author with a unique point of view to give her readers and fans mystery, intrigue, and love with a twist. Her characters are placed in danger in ingenious ways, while at the same time, her novels are set in local across Europe and the United States, reflecting her international upbringing and extensive time as a Cuban exile and global traveler. Writing career began at the age of 13 with a very juvenile science fiction short story. But the writing bugged it, and she has been writing in one capacity or another ever since. All her novels have received different accolades, including gold, silver, and bronze medal, as well as honorary mention from respected book award institutions. Miss Alona Syria is currently writing full-time and loves to hear from her fans and readers. When not writing, she roams around to discover new places to set her novels. And on today's episode of Photo Interview, it's my utmost pleasure and joy to offer on the show today, Maria Helena. How are you doing, Maria?
I am doing very well. Thank you so much for inviting me. This is a great, great, great thing for me. Thank you.
Yeah, it's my pleasure actually. And I'm quite excited to have you on the show today. I'm really very excited, really.
I am too, actually.
Thank
Uh,
you.
uh-huh.
Thank you. So, Maria, I see that you have authored a lot of titles, and I would like us to start today's conversation with your book, The Coin, which I
Mhm.
found the description page of it on Amazon to be quite alluring, compelling. And I would like to ask you, what inspired you to write The Coin? How does this book come about?
The coin actually came, I was living in France at the moment. By the way,
Okay.
this is the book.
Beautiful cover.
Thank you. My graphic artist is a joy to work with.
Oh.
Uh, I was living in France at the moment, close to the French Riviera, in a little town called Les Plans de Grasse.
Mm.
And my kids were small, and they're in that area because it's so mountainous.
Yeah.
There are quite a few hiking trails around the
Oh.
area. So one day they didn't have school. So we went over in one of those hiking trails and I stopped at a clearing. They had their soccer ball. They started playing. I went on the ground. And when we were ready to leave, as I get up, I find coins
Wow.
on the floor, on the ground.
Oh.
And being the the well, I guess I can call myself creative since I write, but I've always had this urge to really sit down and actually write the novel. It's not one
Mm.
thing wish to become an author. You
Mm.
have to sit down and do the work. And
Absolutely.
I had been juggling with it, and when I found the coin and living in that area and being in an actually we were the only ones in the clearing
Wow.
and saying, well, what happens if a woman like myself finds a coin in the middle of the mountain and then two
Wow.
weeks later somebody tries to kill her because she found the coin.
Wow.
So and from there it went and it went off. It went
Wow.
off.
Wow. That sounds like an amazing, unusual way to start a story, to start a book. And that's such an amazing start, really. So that's quite beautiful to get to know about how the coin came to be, the inspiration
Mhm.
behind it, and your first start with it. Sounds quite alluring to me. Thank you
Yes, thank,
for
thank you.
mentioning. Yeah.
Also, I use the area since it's mountainous, small
Mm,
streets, and all kinds of things. I use that area also to enhance the plot,
beautiful.
and that's what I did. So I set it over there where I used to live, and that was
Impressive.
the beginning of the coin.
Yeah, and if you have the book, please could you raise it to the camera again just so we
Sure.
can see?
Mhm.
Yeah, a bit higher, just so we can see the middle part. Yeah, good. Would you like to talk about the making of the cover? And I think that's a character right there, like the
This
main
is what,
character
yes.
there, right?
This is Richard Harrison. He is an
Interesting.
intelligence officer who is told, who is actually tricked by his boss to go
Oh.
and find out why this woman, Gabriela, has the coin, and she found it
Mm.
where she found it. He needs information, but his boss doesn't tell him that it's used as a password to fund terroristic activities around the area.
Oh.
So
Oh, wow.
he goes over there, and then he finds out that her life is in danger and that he needs not only to figure out why the coin is important, but also he needs to save her life,
Wow.
keep her safe, keep her alive until they can figure things out. And then I have a French intelligence officer who works with him, and it's basically almost like a James Bond without the gadgets. It's more a realistic intelligence officer. And
Mm.
then the complication of them getting together, and then them also having some, falling in love together and all that stuff. So yeah,
Wow. This is a short
it's
description. I have me painting image in my head. Looks as if the book is gonna make an amazing movie, really. Yeah, it's gonna make an
well,
amazing movie because as we were talking, I was like, oh, this reminds me of some. The scene is quite
uh,
very beautiful. I'm just catching scenario in my head, following your
yeah.
description. That's amazing.
Thank you. Well, since you mentioned it, I am going in September back to France because
Wow.
I've been invited to work on a one-on-one basis with a Hollywood and a BBC
Interesting.
producer to actually create a screenplay for the novel.
That would be amazing. That
That
would be
would be truly
amazing.
amazing. That would really be amazing.
That's great, really. And I
Yeah,
wish you well
yeah.
with that, really.
Thank you.
That's really
Thank you.
amazing. That's a good news, too. That's a good one. Thank
It's
you
a
for
process of
sharing.
learning something new.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. And now you also have another book in the name of Hanging Softly in the Night, a
Mhm.
Detective Nick Larson novel. For readers who haven't read it yet, and without giving much information away, could we have a sneak of what we'd expect in terms of themes picking up Hanging Softly in the Night?
Okay, this is the book again. My
Yeah,
beautiful graphic designer.
beautiful.
I don't know. Can you see it well?
I can see, yeah,
Okay.
beautiful.
Okay. It's set in New York City, another place where I lived,
Wow.
and it is about Detective Nick Larson, who is sent out to a crime scene, and
Mm.
everybody believes it's a suicide, but
Oh.
his instincts tell him, no, it's not. There's something wrong here. This woman, why would she commit suicide?
Mm.
So things happen. It's a gritty detective. It's
Wow.
one of my editorial reviewers said that it was almost like a CSI with an added sort of added
Wow.
sorts of crazy.
Wow.
Um, but then the detective, they call them out again once more to another suicide. And that's when he
Wow.
realizes it's almost identical in manner. And then they suspect they have a serial killer in their hands who is staging his murder as suicide.
Mm.
So they need to find
Wow.
him, and quickly. And that's
Wow.
basically what the story is about.
Wow. That's quite amazing too. That's quite lovely. I get to find some beautiful illustration and admiration of your books, really. I love the way they sound. I love the way
Thank
they
you.
sound like a murder mystery. It sounds
Mhm.
quite mysterious, quite pulling too. Yeah, just from your short illustration. From a short
Thank
illustration,
you.
I'm quite intrigued
It's
with them,
set, it's
really.
modern. It's a set in New York City as of when I wrote it, which was
Mm,
2021. Yeah.
that's
So
amazing.
yeah,
Thank you.
my graphic
Thank you.
designer does wonderful work.
Really amazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
really amazing. Then you
Thank you.
also have Rhapsody in Black, which I
Mm.
particularly love that title. You know, you have quite a lot of books, and I know we might not be able to cover most of them, but the few ones we're able to talk about would be great. You also have Rhapsody in Black. Would you like to tell us a bit about that too? If you have it, please show it to the camera too. Beautiful. You see?
Yes.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Well, Rhapsody in Black is in memoriam to my mom. My
Oh,
mother was a ballet dancer. She was a prima ballerina in the Cuban ballet. And
oh,
also, my father was a dancer in the Cuban ballet and a choreographer. So was my mom. And I come from a very well-known ballet family, you can say, because my
mm,
aunt and my uncle were also dancers in the Cuban ballet.
oh,
And and I decided to use one of her choreographic titles. She
oh,
actually created a ballet called Black Rhapsody.
wow,
So, in honor of her, I used her title. But since I'm going to be making this into little series, about 4 or 5 books with
yeah,
Elena del Carral, who is the protagonist here, she is a prima ballerina and a choreographer.
mm,
But as my tagline says, ballet can be murder. She is invited to a gala, and when she goes to rehearse, she finds an almost dead body in the rehearsal.
wow,
And this is it. This is said also in New York City.
wow,
Uh, and it's all about her trying. It's a cozy mystery. Her trying to find out who is creating all these issues and who is
mm,
creating all these attacks, and she has somebody who's helping her. That's the
yeah,
one. And
that's
the ballet
amazing.
shoes with the blood on them.
That's amazing. That's really amazing. I love your description of this. It looks
Thank
quite
you.
great to me. And thank you for sharing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. And now let's talk about, feedbacks and criticism, following
Mhm.
the amazing bodies of works that you have already. I know there are times that there might be some opinions from readers that might be a bit not positive, and there are
Mhm.
some that might be positive. And I'd love to ask you, as authors, I'm curious to know your opinion about criticism. How do you react to negative criticism of your books, should in case you've ever had one in the past?
Oh, all authors have had negative reviews.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't pay attention to them. I read them, I process them. Sometimes they do give you some pointers which
Mm,
make you go back to the story or go back to your work in process and
mm,
actually think about what this reviewer said.
yeah.
Most of the time, you have to grow dinosaur skin.
Mm,
You can read them if you want to. I know a lot of authors who are my friends that don't read them at all. They don't read
well,
anything above they don't read anything below 2 stars or 1 stars. You have, unfortunately, in this era, you also have a lot of trolls.
yeah,
So some
absolutely.
people, I've had reviews, I mean, 1 or 2 sentences, and from the 2 sentences, you can tell that the person never even read the book.
Absolutely.
But I just don't react to them. If somebody really does, even if it's a negative review, but they do it in a constructive manner,
Yeah.
and even say this book is not for me, but you know, I listen and I read and then I process, and then basically that's it. I don't react to it. You
Mm,
should, as an author, never react to negativity or to
mm,
negative reviews or get in a back and forth with the reader. That's a
mm.
no-no in our profession. That is a
Absolutely.
no-no in our profession. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. I love that. I love your last line in there. It's a no for a profession. You should never involve in any sort of conversation, even with them. Yeah, you just leave it alone.
Yes.
Sometimes, and I think this actually applies to all genre. But sometimes, I was speaking with a poet some times ago, and it was like, sometimes readers would understand what you're talking about in a book, in a poetry, even if it's other genre.
Mhm.
Sometimes they may get the message you're talking about. Sometimes they may be close to getting the message you're talking about. Sometimes they may miss the message entirely of what you're trying to talk about. So once they come up with their feedback, you just have to stay neutral and just wait, watch, and observe, and just observe,
Exactly.
because everybody's opinion differs. What
Yes,
someone would love, another might not like it. So yeah, I love your
that
take
is,
on this, which
yes.
is
No,
very,
but
very plain.
it is true. And if you write poetry,
Mm,
it is, well, poetry is very deeply personal.
yeah.
Um, it has the imagery that is in your mind in order to express your own experiences.
Mm,
And not everybody has that.
absolutely.
Not everybody has that, and not everybody gets it. So,
Yeah.
that's why I'm saying you just don't react. You leave it
Mm.
as is, and you keep on going in
And
your
it,
little
and
train going forward.
yeah, and again, it is nothing because sometimes when readers read your book and they give you feedback and they say
Thank you.
certain things that it's against what you write, or think for it, they mix understand the message and they say certain things in the review that is against what you're trying to complain to convey rather. So it is not in
Mhm.
your place to go and be engaging in a conversation with the reader because you are big, or take for instance you're a big author, you cannot please every reader, and it is not in your place to go
Mhm.
ahead and to tell every reader, okay, oh, you said so here, but that's not what I'm trying to say. This is what I'm trying to say. No, 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 no. It is not in your place to keep doing all of that. That's a lot of work if you would like to. Yeah, so
Yeah,
I love your take on that, really.
that is true.
Thank you. And now let's talk
Mhm.
about inspirations and ideas. You've written several novels, which is quite very compelling and absorbing and quite commendable to me. If I'd love to say, I really commend your amazing bodies of work out there. And I love the reception. I love the reviews you've got so far, and the receptiveness are quite very beautiful. Now, as a novel, I'm always surprised about how authors, especially novelists like yourself, craft long sentences and bring words together in a way that it eventually makes a great book. And this always leaves me thinking, how exactly did they got the ideas and inspiration for this work? Now as far as writing is concerned, I'd love to ask you too, how do you get the inspirations and ideas for your books? Where did they come from?
They come from everyday life.
Mm,
They actually come from everyday life. Like, for example, the coin. I
mm,
was in the middle of nowhere with my kids. They were playing soccer. I get up, I find coins.
mm,
Bam, there comes the idea.
yeah.
Uh, the second book, which is part of the part of the first book, it's a duology. It's not a series, it's a duology, but the
Mm,
character arc is in two books rather than one. Um, I am by training, I have a master's in medieval literature.
oh, yeah.
And and I've always, since little, because my mother and my father were into creating costumes and they were into history and they were into literature
Mm,
and myth and all that stuff. And I love medieval manuscripts. I
wow.
just love them. I love their illustration. So I created my character, Gabriela, from the coin and the second book as an illustrator. So the second book is about her recreating a medieval manuscript with
Mm,
her own illustrations and setting it up as a children's charity auction that she
oh,
has in Christie's in London. And then
wow,
there's a kid arts dealer who wants her to sell it to him exclusively.
wow.
So that's when all heck breaks loose in her life again. And then Richard has to come back for example, my short story collection. My
Yeah.
short story collection is based on my own experiences.
Oh,
I have a section that I used all my Cuban exile stories,
mm,
some of them, not all of them, and I fictionalized them.
wow.
I also had a little story in there that has to do with a mother and son riding a roller coaster and their different
Mm,
experiences and
wow.
why she does it. Uh, I have a ghost story in there
Wow.
that has to do with not so much a ghost, but a soul in purgatory, which it reflects my
Mm,
Catholic upbringing.
wow.
And this is, by the way, this is the little book. This
Shit.
is the collection.
Yeah.
And it's called the fish tank because one of the stories of Cuban exile is in a fish tank like
Wow.
detainment room
Wow.
before they leave for exile, and all the things that happen. And that's a little girl with her suitcase of stories.
Mm.
And it's basically, I mean, if you go to a restaurant and you listen to maybe somebody's talking too loud next to you, and they say something weird, and I say, "Ooh, that would make a great story." So, so yeah, you see something on television and say, "Ooh, I like that. Maybe I can twist it this way." So
Yeah,
life itself gives
it's an
you
inspiration.
the inspiration. As far
Mm.
as writing is concerned, and this is more the craft than anything else,
Mm.
um, the actual creation of the sentences have to do really with the genre you're writing.
Writing.
For example, my short stories, the ones on the Cuban exile,
Yeah.
they are longer, more lyrical.
Mm.
Uh, they have to have a little bit more impact
Mm.
emotionally. So
Wow.
they are different from my detective story,
Mm.
which need to be sometimes short, in your face,
Mm.
mystery. The same thing with the other two stories. They have to be also the coin has to be almost like you are writing a thriller, a visual thriller. It's one after the other, and so the actual writing has to reflect the
Mm.
pace of the novel, and that's more craft than inspiration.
Absolutely. Wow. I love that. And it's so beautiful to hear how your inspirations and ideas come to be for different books, actually. That's quite beautiful to know. And thank you so much for
Thank you.
sharing. I enjoyed listening to all of this. They're quite beautiful to me. Thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
And now,
Thank
apart
you.
from the books we've mentioned so far, do you have any other works you've authored or say currently working on?
I'm working right now on actually three.
Wow.
You shouldn't work on three at the same time. But I started, no, no, you shouldn't, no. Uh, I started,
Oh my goodness.
I like to explore too. I like to experiment. I'm working on a sweet romance that's more developed than the other one. I'm working on the second novel for Detective Nick Larson,
Yeah.
and I'm working on the second novel for the ballerina. And then I have
Wow.
the second, well, this is the second story really from the coin, the duology, what I call it. And as you can see, yeah, that's the only other one
Mm.
that I have finished, the Book of Hours. And
Wow.
it's the one I talked to you about, the manuscript, and it's based on a medieval manuscript called the Book of Hours,
Mm.
which is
Wow.
a beautifully illustrated medieval manuscript.
Wow.
And as you can see, the Tower of London is there because she goes back to London,
Mm.
and uh, and that's and of course the
Wow.
title also is based on illustrations from a medieval manuscript. I mean, my graphic artist is so good,
Wow. That's
and that's
amazing.
it.
That's
Seems
actually
like
amazing.
that's a lot, though. I'm a slow writer. I don't write fast. It takes me
Oh,
about 6 months to write a book because
that's
I'm
still fast.
yeah, but it's to write it. Then comes the revisions, and
Yeah.
then comes editing, and then my developmental editor needs to get a hold of it, and then
Yeah.
my proofreader needs to get a hold because I need to send out. I'm a perfectionist.
Yeah.
I
Yeah. Yeah.
because of my ballet upbringing, I have to be perfect in everything. Uh, but I like to present my work as professional and
It's
as
possible.
perfect as I can get it
That's
out there to
great.
the reader. Because
That's amazing.
the readers like they don't like to see mistakes.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Everybody don't like to see mistake. Yeah. Yeah. And that's quite an amazing body and quite a lot. you get going on. And I really hope that you find some times to sleep.
Yeah, uh-huh.
That's quite a lot,
Sometimes you
really.
wake at 3 o'clock in the morning with an idea too. Ah.
Mm. Yeah, that's true. That's true. I've got some people tell me that, the ideas come in the midnight. I'm like, oh goodness, I'll be sleeping by then. I wouldn't like to sacrifice my sleeping time for any story whatsoever, please. I value my sleeping time, but then it's good.
Mhm.
You know. Yeah, it's an amazing one. That's a great job you've got ongoing. That's quite a lot. That's quite a
Yes.
lot. Considering what you've published already and what you're currently working on, the pace at which you're going is quite very fast and it's quite commendable. Well done.
Well, sometimes like it happens, life intrudes.
Mm,
And even though I have a plan that I need to get this out, sometimes it doesn't work.
yeah,
So, I'm flexible. Thank
yeah,
goodness I have the gift of being able to work full time on what
yeah.
I because before I was teaching at the same time I was writing.
That's
So it,
great.
it was difficult.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing. And now, could
Mhm.
you tell us what publishing is like for a published author like yourself? Because I know that with different authors, the experiences is quite different considering what they write, the genre they operate in, etc. Now, are there any
Mhm.
challenges you've encountered in the process of writing your books and also ever since it got published?
My publishing journey took a long time because I was moving from place to place and trying to keep the family,
Yeah,
balanced and everything. Um, I started I started seriously
yeah,
trying to publish in early 1993. Independent publishing did not exist at the time.
then, yeah.
I had to do the usual queries and the rejections and the queries and the rejections. I got representation 3 times from different agents, but back then, basically, if they couldn't place your work in an editorial place
Mm,
or an editorial house, um, after 6 months, they would let you go, and then you need to go through the process all over again.
again, wow.
Then we kept moving too many times. So long story short, I'm in North Carolina, and I have a little bit more time taking care of my mom. And that's when the industry actually has started to change, and a lot of people started publishing independently.
Mm,
I got my first book. That's when I decided, let me go indie, and I started publishing by myself.
mm,
I've been lucky, but it still is a lot of hard work. The hardest thing now for any, any, any author, unless you are, one of these bestsellers
yeah,
with a publishing house, an established
yeah.
publishing, you have to do mostly all your work, all your marketing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And especially nowadays, there's a glut in the market of
Mm,
all kinds of writers, and you have to work against that.
yeah.
So you have to come up with new ideas, but you have to that's, I think, the most challenging because it
Mm,
takes time from your writing,
mm,
and you have to be constant because with social media and the way advertising is going nowadays, it's almost instantaneous. And within not even a day, your last year's, you know, chocolate
was,
pudding.
yeah.
So basically you have to be constantly and come up with creative ideas,
Mm,
something that not everybody else is doing, even though you're
absolutely.
still doing other things that everybody else is doing. But
Mm,
and you have to keep at it. And that's the hardest thing I find in being an indie publisher,
wow.
because I'm my own publisher, obviously.
Wow. This is quite a lot. I love your storyline concerning your publication journey and the things you find along the line. They're quite
Mhm.
beautiful to listen to. And thank you so much for sharing. I enjoy listening to it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Yeah. And just in case you have any sort of advice for struggling writers, for writers who are still struggling with putting their works together and publishing it, what advice would you give people in this category?
Okay. My first advice is finish what you started.
Yeah.
That's number one. Two, learn the craft as much as you can.
Wow.
Go to, not so much go to critique groups, go and take classes of creative writing.
Yeah.
Shows you how the craft works, how you were talking before about, how do you construct your sentences? What do you do?
Mm,
They talk about genre, they talk about
mm,
a lot of things. Learn your craft well
mm,
before you even think about taking it out there.
mm,
Uh, my next piece of advice is perseverance. Keep
mm,
at it, keep at it, keep at it, and finish what you started. And
mm.
then get a professional cover artist. If you will, or if you are going indie,
Yeah.
then get a good cover artist that will give you, not only present a beautiful cover, but do it professionally and work with your ideas on what you want shown.
Mm,
The second thing is get yourself a good editor that will guide you. I mean, I've had sometimes my developmental editor, I was in love with one little scene in one of my books, in the second book, actually, in the Book of Hours. And she said, you're going to have to, I love the character, I love what you're doing, but it takes away from the pacing.
mm.
And
Wow.
and because we are writers and we fall in love with the characters and the scenes and everything else, we need somebody else who's also a professional to say,
Yeah.
no, this takes away from the pacing. You are telling, not showing, which is a
Mm,
very important thing. And then get yourself a proofreader. There
yeah.
are a ton of people out there advising you how you can do your own editing and be great at it. But
Mm,
you know what? Your eyes and your brain deceive you all the time.
mm,
You need somebody who can really be a good proofreader, go line by line and proofread your mistakes, whether it's a comma, a semicolon, or a misspell. It doesn't
mm,
matter, because when you read it and you catch a lot of things, but there are some things that your brain substitutes what you have in your brain, but
yeah.
it's not on paper, and somebody
Mm,
else will catch it. And that's
mm,
the important thing. You need to present as a professional material out there as you can with your book. Be proud of your book, be proud of your story, and make sure that you finish it, you proofread it, and that you send out a very professional product out there, because it really is a product.
mm. That's amazing, really. I love your take on that. And I love the fact that you mentioned the need of having to have a critic group, join a creative writing class. And I
Yes.
think that blends into the conversation of, is talent enough or do I need a skill? I mean, I have this talent for writing. Do I need to add more skill to it? What is skill and what is talent? So that's quite amazing. You need to balance these two together, get on how to write the book, and get in the professional way, the literary way on how to get it refined, beautiful, well presentable, and okay. That's quite amazing, really. I love your take on that.
Well, you said it yourself, and it's correct. You can have the talent, but if you don't
Mm,
have the skill, you're not conveying
yeah,
professionalism, and you're not conveying your story out there unless you know how to do
absolutely.
it. So
Yeah.
it's like a ballet dancer, it's like an actor, it's like everybody else. You have the talent, you have the story, but you need the skills.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
for mentioning. I love your take on that. This is quite educative, really. Very
Thank you.
educative, quite informative, and well, beautifully done. Thank you. Thank you.
You're
And before
welcome.
we call it a day today, is there
Mhm.
anything that you would love to share with the viewers about your books, your writing journey, that we did not mention in this interview and you'd love the viewers to know?
Oh my goodness, my writing journey started, like I said, it started with my English teacher when I was in high school, and
Mm,
she showed us a very faded photograph of a foggy day in London with Big Ben in the background. And she told us, write a short story about that. And that's it. I was hooked.
that
I
was
was hooked.
amazing.
And then I started writing and I kept, I love literature. So I kept at it, also going to the university, getting, reading literature. I read also literature in other languages. So that
Mm,
also brings in other myths and other viewpoints that are not exactly my own, and
mm,
also enhance me as a writer.
mm.
So and just keep at it. I mean, life throws big curves at you. It has
Yeah.
with me. Like I said, I've been all over I've lived everywhere. I've moved anywhere.
Mm.
And many times I've had to stop. But once I
Wow.
decided to become an author, you have to keep at it. And I did, and you have to keep on it. It's perseverance,
Yeah.
perseverance. And you fall down, you get up, dust your behind, and keep on
And go
going.
on.
And keep on going. If that's what you really want.
Yeah.
Some people say, oh, I want to become a writer, but that's not what they really, really want. If you
Mm.
really want it, you keep at it.
That's
And
great.
that's it. And keep on writing. It's like,
Yeah. I love your take on that, really. Thank you. And just in case we have some viewers who are currently watching this interview, I would love to get a copy of any of your books. On what platform are they available on for purchase?
I am everywhere worldwide. I am in Amazon everywhere. I am in Lulu
Mm.
Publishing. I am in Kobo. I am in Apple. I am
Beautiful.
in I am in Draft to Digital that has Vivilio and all kinds of stuff. So
Mm.
I'm basically worldwide. You can find me. You know, the only issue is that I wanted to write under my own name so that
Yeah.
readers come to me as the author, not because of what I wrote, a genre. That's why I like to explore genres.
Yeah.
Uh, and my name is very big. But they can find me anywhere. I'm in digital form and I'm in print form as well.
That's great. That's amazing. And I left a link in the description part of this interview where
Mhm.
interested viewers can get a copy of Maria Elena's books directly on Amazon, on Lulu, and also on other platforms. So thank you so much, Maria, for accepting the invitation to be featured on P English Literature. It was awesome having this conversation with you. I love it wholeheartedly.
Thank you very much. It really has been a pleasure. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Yeah, it's my pleasure as well. Thank you.